Hi guys, welcome to Graphic Nation on Geek TV, where we'll be discussing everything comic book related. I'm Thilani.
And I'm Akila, and we're coming to you from Red Dot Geek, Sri Lanka's one and only comic book shop here at Liberty Plaza. Thilani, what are we going to talk about today with the guys?
Okay, so today I thought we'll be talking about indie comics. You and I both love independent comics.
Of course, you know it.
So both of us will be geeking out a little bit about our favorite kinds of comics, which are indie.
Awesome.
But maybe, okay, so my thing is that sometimes when people say indie comics, like they tend to mean everything that's not DC and Marvel, but that's not quite what indie comics are.
That's definitely not it. So yes, Marvel and DC are the two biggest titans in the industry. I think they both have about 44 to 45%, but there are tons of other companies that operate outside of these guys. And something that's cool that some of them do is that they give their creators full creative control of their characters.
We were saying how independent comics are creator-owned IPs.
Yeah.
So you have complete creative control over your entire story, right? Unlike the big Marvel and DC IPs, where like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, they created pretty much all of the main characters in the Marvel universe.
That's true.
But
and let's be honest, Jack Kirby doesn't get as much credit as
exactly
he should.
as Stan Lee.
But that's a whole other segment for another
that's
day.
something else. I have problems with like Stan Lee, but let's not talk about that. But the thing is that once you create that character and give it over to like DC or Marvel, you have no further say in what happens to the character, right? So it's kind of like giving your child to an orphanage, and then you have nothing more to do with how they're raised. So the thing is that like when you hand over your IP to like DC or Marvel, they have to take a character that's already been created and run with it for like 40 or 50 years. And then what can you do with something like that?
Where do we start with what you can do?
Well, okay, but you can send them to the past.
You can send them to the future.
Seriously. Okay, you can send them to alternate like other dimensions. You can send them to space, and then when all else fails, you can dun. Yes, and we're not going there because seriously, that is a huge gripe. Like, how many times do these characters have to die and then find some miraculous way of actually, they're not dead?
Don't you just love it when characters stay dead? Even if it's a character you love, it still means so much more to you.
Closure. But it's also this. For me, the thing about being able to have an IP that you control from start to finish is that you can have consistent quality, right? Because let's face it, I love Batman. I've grown up with loving Batman for so long.
Same here, but with Superman.
Okay, fine. but the thing with me is like reading Batman over the years, there have been some pretty shitty arcs. Seriously. Yeah. Like, okay, don't even let me start. Let's not go there. But the thing is that the consistency of that comic can vary from really good to really, really bad. And the thing is that and that is because there are so many people working on the comic. Okay. Because you don't own the IP, you don't have a say in what happens to the character you've created. So lots of people put their fingers in the pie, and some of them really mess up. But whereas with independent comics, if you have a good comic, because you direct where the story goes, how the characters interact, how the artwork is, there is a better chance of having a consistently good comic out there.
That's true. Right? That's very true.
And not my opinion only, because if you can look at like the Eisners.
This year, the new comic book series award for the Eisners, basically all the stories in that are all Image titles. I mean, that's amazing.
Image has been kind of cleaning up the boards for a bit
pretty
at
much.
Eisners, which I'm happy about. Of course. Please send us free stuff. Image, we are your biggest fan. Well, kind of your biggest fan in Sri Lanka anyway.
At least.
But if you look at like from about 2010, Image, mostly Image, but independent comics.
Yeah.
Like they've been cleaning up. I did a little bit of like research, like I just checked just to make sure I was right.
Yeah.
So what we thought we'd do is come up with a few of our favorite indie comics, which people may not be too familiar with, and hopefully that will encourage you to pick up a couple of indie comics and read them.
Swords of Glass is a story about 4 magical glass swords that make its way to a planet. We are not explicitly told that it's Earth, and it's found by a little girl. Now, the girl finds it in a very almost Scottish countryside type setting. And then she ends up getting this sort of retired warrior who, funny enough, looks a lot like Mel Gibson in Braveheart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now
I don't know if it's.
I have to read
please
this
let
now.
us know in the
Okay.
comments if you agree with me. Just Google it, or better yet, buy the comic and find
Yeah.
out for yourself. But this guy looks a lot like Braveheart, Mel Gibson. And so from there, she begins training with him, and then they later travel to a more deserted pyramid type setting, and then ultimately they end up in a whole like Amazon rainforest type setting. And
Okay.
it's beautiful, amazing artwork, beautiful story. Look, the script might seem a little iffy at times because I think it's based on a translation.
Oh, okay.
But trust
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
it holds up. And European comics they're not like
Yeah.
Western comics. They might push your buttons a little more. Even a comic that is as like beautiful
that,
and
they
colorful
do
and
that.
vivid as this, they will tend to push it in subtext. So just I'm sure you'll be able to handle
Yeah.
it. Just give it a go.
Show and Tell is one of my favorite comics. It's called Castle Waiting by Linda Medley, and it's this really strange comic that looks at Sleeping Beauty's castle, right?
Yeah.
And every child learns about Sleeping Beauty, and the prince comes and wakes her up, and they ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after.
Pretty much.
But they leave behind an entire castle full of like her waiting, like her ladies in waiting, and all the other people. And they're like, okay, great. You sailed off into the sunset with like some blonde man. What about us? And the entire comic is about how these people are left to fend for themselves.
Okay.
There are other fairy tale characters that come in there as well. There's a bearded nun. Okay, yes, there's a bearded nun.
Okay.
But it's just this like fantastically funny, but also very serious. It addresses some serious issues as well. The other one is very non-fairy tale. It's this one called Lady Killer by Joelle Jones.
It's like a Mad Men episode gone wrong.
Yeah, yes, because see, the thing is, what I love about it is it's about a 50s housewife. So she is the perfect housewife who like wears her pearls on those beautiful little 50s dresses, and there's I don't know if you remember, like from the 70s, there used to be these weird things like Avon ladies. They went around selling makeup or
Yes,
something,
yes,
some
yes,
weird
yes,
thing
yes.
like that. I don't know, whatever.
That
But
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That sounds
yeah,
like something
yeah,
like
kind of
something like that in the
right?
department
Yes.
store.
So this is
yeah.
kind of like Mrs. Maisel,
Okay.
if she was also an assassin, like she's a contract killer for a mob, and
Which mob?
no, it's just like it's
Is it
kind of
not
like
ethnic
an
specific?
agency where you can go and like hire killers.
Okay.
Right. So by day she's this beautiful, proper woman who has the white picket fence house and two lovely children and a husband, and she takes her children for music lessons and cooks dinner for her husband, and then goes out to her like Avon lady meetings, which means she actually goes out and murders people in the most gruesome possible ways. She does not hold back.
That's a brilliant guise for like going
but-
out and killing people.
but
Honey, I'm going to go sell some perfume.
Yes,
But no, I'm
but I'm actually
going to
shoot somebody or stab them or strangle them to death, right?
Wow.
I know. And there's also like, I love it because it's gory, but there's also these funny bits because now she goes out every evening, and sometimes like, you know, she goes out and meets this other guy who's like her partner, but she has the typical nosy mother-in-law who's like, where is my daughter-in-law going at this time of the night? Oh, who is that man? And she's convinced that she's having an affair. So she's trying to get the son-in-law to divorce her, thinking that she's an unfaithful wife. Little does she know that like the truth is even worse than
Even
this.
worse, yeah.
So what I love about it is the art, because I was reading that Joe Jones was influenced very much by the 1950s, like the sort of
you can
ads,
see that
the
influence,
kind of
that
ad
clearly is. Even
influences
the
of the
interior
time.
art, and I love the fact that the interior art like sort of ties well with the cover, because you get some comics the cover art is done by some perfectionist, and then the interior artwork.
Hey, indie comic.
I mean, everybody does a great job. I mean, I'm not to
but
crap on
yes,
anyone's
so
work.
there's
But
consistency,
beautiful.
right?
It's
It's beautiful. So that's
Definitely.
another thing. That's why
Yeah.
like we were saying, independent art allows you creative control to get out a fantastic product.
The Divine by Bose Levy, Tomer Hanukkah, and Asif Hanukkah. Now, this one might not necessarily have the greatest story. It's a little iffy, and I think that's mostly to do with the fact that
With
it's
the
a translation.
I thought so
It's
too.
easy with the
Yeah.
translation, but what really drew me to this comic is the two artists, twin brothers, Tomer Hanukkah and Asif Hanukkah from Israel.
Yeah.
Phenomenal artists. They've done work for New Yorker, one brother who is called the Realist. He runs this online comic strip about himself and his family. Beautiful, must check out. And Tropical Toxic, who one of the other brothers basically is his brand which he runs with. Superb artwork. You might have actually seen some of their work here and there. You surely would have caught a glimpse of it. This one's story is about two American soldiers who decide to go into the Far East on some mysterious mission, but then they arrive there to find out that not all is what it seems in this country. There's clearly some fantastical elements at play. Again, another must-check-out comic. Trust me, even if you might not enjoy the story, stick to it for the artwork. Get to that halfway point, you'll know what I'm talking about.
He's an art fan, so you know.
Yeah. One last comic I want to share with you guys is
Southern Bastards.
Southern Bastards. Now, imagine, if you will, it's Alabama. You got some fried chicken cooking on the stove, and you take the very essence of that and put it in a comic book, but then you also splash a lot of blood and guts into it.
Yes.
That's what
hot
Southern
sauce.
and a lot of hot sauce.
A
lot of hot sauce.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what Southern Bastards is basically. Southern Bastards is a story of a small town in Alabama that is basically run by a football coach.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this cover, but it's a football player wielding an axe. Yep, that actually happens in the story. And it's about this little town, as I said, run by its football coach. Now, you would assume a football coach's power ends at the high school football field, but no.
It doesn't.
This man has made his way into pretty much every single corner of this little town, everything from the organized crime to basically the running of the local diner, if I'm not mistaken. And so the protagonist in this story is the
sheriff's son, right?
The sheriff's son, yes.
Yeah.
He returns to his town after having been disgraced and having left a long time ago, and he comes and decides to take matters into his own hands and
to save the town basically from
and Thilani, he has the coolest weapon that I'm sorry, Thor, your hammer and axe, pretty cool, but you can't beat.
You're going to have Thor fans after you.
I know, but like, hey, come after me. I'll try and find the same weapon that I'm about. Yeah, it's basically a baseball bat. Club made out of this old oak tree that this man had in his garden. And oh my god, he does open some cans of whoop-ass on some people.
Yes, on that.
Beautiful. So yeah, that's a must-check out story written by Jason Aaron and drawn by Jason Latour. Yeah.
Two Jasons.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the final one, I'm going to go with Monstrous. Because
how did I miss that?
Gorgeous.
How did I miss that?
Every level.
Oh, it's such a good one.
It's a fantastic story. Marjorie Liu and Sana Takada do an amazing job on that thing.
So good.
It's basically a fantasy, and there's lots of magic. But what's amazing about it is, one thing is the quality of the story is fantastic, and the art. Like, I have never seen art that was so actually intricate and luminous, right?
Yeah,
it's just
it glows.
filled with the sense. It glows.
It glows. There's a magical
element. Sorry, we're kind of like fangirling a little bit, but it is beautiful. Like, if nothing else, just read it for the art.
Or if you're a cat lover.
There's a fantastic cat. If you like cats, it's also a good book. Monstrous has won so many Eisners. Southern Bastards has won an Eisner. So did Linda Medley for Castle Waiting. Lady Killer was nominated for several Eisners. So these are all like pretty well-known books, even if they are not from the big two. What I love personally about indie comics is just that there's no limit to the stories they tell.
It doesn't start and end with a cape.
It doesn't start and end with a cape.
It really doesn't. There's just
nice.
So much more.
Yeah. There's football coaches, there's magical cats, there's like
all sorts of things. There's
and it's
swords made of glass with very
and it's just like an amazing field of stuff out there.
We could probably say we didn't even capture like 1% of how huge.
Yes, the indie market is. Go out there, grab some indie comics, and like maybe let us know what you think.
Yeah.
And what you've read, share some stuff with us.
And one place you can definitely pick some great comics up is here at Red.Geek.
Speak to Sulakshana, who owns it, and just like he'll be happy to find stuff for you if you have any particular thing you like. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this segment. Bye.
Due to security concerns, tickets will be limited this year. Sign up to get notified when they go on sale. Once they're sold out, that's it. Visit www.lankacomiccon.lk/get-notified.